Here we go. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to the Breakdown Daily Recap. What is February 7th, 2018? I'm Breaking CBK, of course. And today's obviously, yesterday happened to be the first day I've missed so far since doing the daily recap in terms of doing a recap every single day. So, again, off the bat, I do apologize for that. Of course, I was traveling literally all day. I flew out early, actually technically late at night the night before. As far as East Coast time goes, and I didn't get home until later on in the evening yesterday, so it was almost a full day of traveling with some delays in between. Really don't want to talk too much about it, but it's I think it's understandable that I wasn't able to get a daily recap in. But again, it still sucks because I like the idea of having a streak going, doing one every single day. So I thought about just hopping on quickly last night, but even with that, I actually ended up casting last night shortly after I got home. I casted some DAC, some official casting for the NA region. Got to cast Complexity versus Iceberg, a great series. But it was a very long day, to say the least. So here we are today. Thankfully, the good news is not a whole lot really happened. Again, we'll go over everything that's really happened now in the last kind of couple of days here. But it mainly all took place yesterday anyways. So without further ado, I think it's important to get right into it. As I mentioned, I was casting some DAC last night. That's because the Dota 2 Asian Championships has officially kicked off for the qualifiers, at least. So it's worth going over to see how that's shaping up for all the regions, what to look forward to, etc. We'll start with the China region. Again, being the Dota 2 Asian Championships, understandably, they are fairly heavier on involving the Chinese teams. I think there's 3 invited Chinese teams. Yeah, IG Newbie and Vici Gaming. And then you're also looking at 2 teams that qualify on top of that from China, if I'm not mistaken. The winner? Oh, maybe it's actually just the winner. Hold on. Is it just the winner? Oh, they've already had... Okay, so 2 teams have already qualified as well. So it's actually the top 3. Okay, no, that makes more sense. So yeah, 2 teams have already qualified. They're also running a bit of a different format in the China region because of how many teams they have involved for the qualifiers. There's 12 teams for the qualifiers, unlike for most others I want to say have 8. If I'm not mistaken. So they decided to run it where it's 2 groups of 6 each. They do this round-robin format. Ultimately, 3 teams advance on. So it looks like it's the top team in each group that advances on, and then they play a playoff stage to determine who the 3rd team that moves on is. Okay, that makes a lot more sense. Ultimately, there's going to be 5 teams of the 16 teams there that are from China. Again, I think the Perfect World Masters, actually, that I was at, had the same kind of ratio. But you have LGD as well as Keen Gaming taking their group, so you get a closer look. Keen Gaming, again, really proven to be a strong team out of China. Most noticeably, they qualified for the first major of the year when it came to the season starting off right here. So representing China well, one that we don't really know much about yet still, with all of that said, and just what's a very competitive region. But they qualify for the Dota 2 Asian Championships out of Group A. Close with Eclipse, actually. Eclipse is the team with Shadow on it, most notably. Even a player like June, definitely some recognizable names right there. But they defeated Eclipse, I'm guessing, which is why, they defeated Eclipse in their best of 1, which is why they won the tiebreaker there, I would guess. Or did they play it? Oh, yeah, actually, it looks like they might have even played an extra match to determine that. LGD, they went undefeated in their group. They took it. Again, LGD on a hot streak. They got to the finals of the most recent tournament, and that was a Star Ladder. Of course, losing to Liquid in the end. Even took a game off of them, though. LGD, with this new roster, an up-and-coming, I don't even want to say up-and-coming by any means, but they've been looking like a hot team as of late out of China once again. All right, so the final team that's going to advance on, they're still playing through the playoffs. You look at the results so far. Right now, VGJ Thunder and Big God are currently in the winter finals. You saw Eclipse, they lost to VGJ Thunder early on, so despite doing well in the group stages, getting so close, they now have to fight through the losers bracket. Overall, nothing too crazy here when it comes to results. As far as my favorites would have to go, I would say VGJ Thunder because just like LGD, they too have been on a bit of a hot streak. As of late, the roster definitely has come together nicely. Maybe who's on Big God actually? That's right. You got Burning, Ferrari, Xiao, and these are huge name players, of course. Somewhat of a newer team, but Team Big God they qualified through the Open qualifiers actually. We'll see if they are able to make a play. They're going to play VGJ Thunder. That will determine a lot. But again, if I had to lean towards a team that I expected to qualify, it would be VGJ Thunder. All right, so that's China. There's all these other regions to go over, so let's just go through it. We got Southeast Asia, again, 8 teams here. All the other formats, I believe, are the same, being that it's double elimination. So you see the results so far. TNC versus Mineski in our winter finals. You have Fnatic and Geek Fam still alive in the losers bracket. As far as some interesting results, Boom ID knocking off Fnatic in the very first round. Boom ID, a team out of the Indonesia? That's right. What? How on earth did that happen? They won that series 2-1. Fnatic won the first game. Looks like Boom ID won the next 2 to advance on. That is a pretty big upset, frankly, especially for a major qualifier. Now, ultimately, Boom ID was knocked out before Fnatic in the end, but still, that's got to be, feel pretty good moment for Boom ID when it comes to some results right here. So Fnatic, though, will take on Geek Fam in the losers. Again, TNC versus Mineski. I don't know what to think here. TNC with their newest player picking up Armel, of course, moving him to the 2. Cuckoo's gone to the 5 position, replacing 1437 essentially. I still don't know how I'm sold on. I would have to really watch this team. Haven't had the chance yet. But TNC off to a strong start, taking out Fire Dragoon and then Boom ID in the semifinal. So Mineski is going to be the big challenge, though. Depending on how they do against Mineski, maybe get more information in terms of what to expect. But I would still lean towards Mineski ultimately being a qualified team. Coming out of the Southeast Asian region, again, getting a top four performance in the Dota 2 Asian Championships. But it does look like 2 teams actually qualify for the main event. So whoever wins this qualifies, and then the winner of the losers bracket will also qualify. So maybe Mineski, and let's go Fnatic. I think Fnatic can make the strong comeback here over potentially TNC with that switching around the roster and everything. Let's go over to CIS. In the CIS region, the 8 teams here, including Team Kazakhstan. That should be fun. Also, Team Invincible. They're the 2 open qualifier teams, also from Kazakhstan. Very, very interesting here for the CIS region. But they have yet to play their matches. I guess it's going to be a couple of days, so they still have a little bit of time before their matches are going to be taking place. But all the big name teams are there, outside of Virtus Pro, of course, who got the automatic invite. Again, they only get 1 spot. Yeah, so CIS only gets the 1 spot that ultimately qualifies. In Europe, same thing. Only 1 spot ultimately qualifies. And how about how things have been shaping up so far? Alliance versus OG winter finals. This is the first time we're getting to see the new Alliance roster, which, again, I'm super excited for. Not only do you have the old school Loda, but you have Mickey, Boxy, Insania, and Taiga. Those other 4 players, all more recently former Han players, coming over to the Dota 2 scene. And all these players, especially Insania and Mickey, I mean, nothing against the others. Again, Boxy, a fantastic player as well. But these are Prodigy-like players. Mickey specifically, if he really gets his mind into the game and if he's really focused, he is going to be one of the more standout mid players of the year. Mark my words, man. Now, with all of that said, I don't know if I'm necessarily sold on Alliance and the future of this team moving forward. It's very tough competition out there. They are a newer team on the scene. I still don't know how much I should believe in a team that Loda is kind of leading as the carry player, and I say that because, again, is his drive really there when he has so many other business adventures that he's focusing on? I know that's not fair necessarily to say that he can't be that, but he's already won a TI, He's got a lot of business things on the side that he's focusing on. Is that drive there is the ultimate question. Hey, so far these qualifiers, impressive results. Won over Double Dimensions in their new roster, which we'll get into in a second. And then over Team Kingwin. They actually came back. They were down 1-0. I thought for sure that was going to be lost. I was actually watching a bit of that game too. From what I saw, they were down there a bit as well, but they ended up coming back, and then they won the 3rd game on top of that in about a 33-minute victory. All 3 games, you look like somewhat similar lineups, in fact. They had Chaos Night all 3 games. But even in the game they lost, it went 61 minutes, so putting up a good fight. And they defeat Kingwin, which is a bit of an upset, I think. Kingwin's, again, a team that we expect out of Europe to do at least pretty well. And Alliance with this new roster coming in, taking them out. So we get an Alliance versus OG matchup in the winter finals. Again, very excited about that. That'll take place tomorrow. As far as the loser bracket is concerned, more action going to kick off today. Kingwin in the final tribe in the losers bracket there. Final tribe, you got Era, Jonas Van Pablo, Hanskin, and Nox, also known as Frost in game. Again, a lot of former Han players there, so as always, I'm excited for them as well. Apparently, I'm being told the CK was played in the 4 role. Really? He was played in position 4 for this game. Oh, yeah, because they had a Luna on top for that. Very interesting. I've heard the idea of a support Chaos, and I haven't necessarily seen too much of it, though. But, yeah, we'll see how they do against OG. And nobody knocked out just yet, but you have to figure OG is the favorite, of course. But if Alliance can go on a streak, England could still come back from the losers bracket especially. Those would be my favorites there. Out of South America, the 8 teams making progress. Pain versus SG in the winter finals. Everyone's still alive. Pain Gaming, again, they were very impressive at WESG. They have the same roster, if I'm not mistaken. I expect them to be a team that represents South America well. So I'm going to say, hands down, they should be winning these qualifiers, especially being able to defeat SD Esports, who they just defeated in the WESG event finals itself. So Pain Gaming, yeah, I was pretty impressed by their play. It wasn't a case of, oh, they won it, that's why I'm going with them. Again, just genuinely casting them and watching them, they seem like they got their shit together. So I would not be surprised to see them advancing on to the main event. And then you have North America. Again, the region I happen to be casting as well. I'm going to be casting all throughout this event, including all the way through the winter finals and everything throughout this week. So I'm super excited for this, as always. I got the chance to cast Complexity versus Iceberg yesterday. First things first, again, I didn't really look at the other brackets too much, but I did analyze this bracket because a lot of mentions were brought up about it. And, yeah, I still stand by, to be blunt, I don't know how these brackets were formed. Yes, it's double elimination in the end, and ultimately 2 teams qualify even, but what were they thinking when putting these brackets together? Because you look at the top portion, you have arguably the number 2, 3, and 4 seeded teams all in the same bracket, and then you have evil geniuses down there in the bottom portion of the initial bracket with teams like Team IDC, which is now known as the new VGJ squad. You have IsGG, the former VGJ squad, and then 5 Turtles. You know, nothing against these teams, but these are not proven teams whatsoever. So you're essentially putting at least proven teams as of lately in Optic, Complexity, Iceberg, and even Immortals to an extent. I understand Immortals has gone through some roster changes, and they are a little bit worse off, arguably, than before, with Ryoya and Velo stepping, if anything, because of the team chemistry. But again, if you're to seed these teams, sure, Evil Genius is number 1, which I do still think is a little bit debatable, frankly, but I understand why it's also, if I was to make a top 5 list right now in NA, I would have EG at top. So EG at top, and then you got Complexity, Optic Gaming, and Iceberg Esports, let's say. There's no argument there. Those are the 2, 3, and 4 teams. I don't care what you say to convince me otherwise. Those are the 2, 3, and 4 teams. They should never all be on the same side of an 18 bracket. That makes absolutely no sense. In fact, you could argue Complexity and Optic are the 2 and 3 teams. Why the hell are they playing in the first round? So it's so unfortunate that happened like it. Again, ultimately the deserving team should still move on, I think, but it still boggles my mind that we could still run into this situation with organizations putting on these brackets. And I know it's a lot of work and there's so much information to absorb, yada, yada, yada. But, man, it's simple things like that you just cannot let happen. Like, they should have, either Complexity or Optic should have been the lower part in place of maybe 5 Turtles, for example. So if you put 5 Turtles, if you replace 5 Turtles with Optic Gaming, all of a sudden the brackets make a lot more sense, right? It's just one simple move like that. But for some reason, whoever put this together thought it would have been a great idea to match up the second and third seeded teams, in my opinion, and in a lot of others' opinions, in the first round. So with that said, they matched up in the first round. A great match, sure. It ended up being a 3-game series. Complexity did take it ultimately. They moved on, and then they took out Iceberg Esports in a pretty decisive victory. Again, the series that I happened to cast there, they won it 2-0, so they're in the winter finals. On the other side, EG and IsGG, they're going to match up later on tonight. The winner of that, of course, moves on to the winter finals. And again, in NA, 2 teams do qualify out of NA as well. They happen to be a region that did not get a direct invite initially. Again, only 6 teams were invited, so understandable. But it looks like, similar to the Southeast Asia region, because no teams were invited from that region, they make a point to have 2 teams qualify, which I like. So that is good to see, and I think NA is absolutely deserving of having 2 teams qualify from the region. So there you go. Those are the DAC events. They're continuing all throughout this week, into the weekend even in some cases. So plenty of good Dota 2 to watch. All right, we're already dragging on here a little bit, so I want to keep things picked up. ESL 1 Katowice, that's going to be kicking off in a little bit from now. Yeah, we still have a couple of weeks before it's taken place, but the official brackets were announced today as far as the groups. It's a double elimination, Group A, Group B. It's pretty much the same format they had for ESL 1 Genting. The biggest complaint there, again, I like the format, and I think it did overall very well, and I'm not against this format. But the biggest complaint there was a setup for only 6 of the 16 teams going on to the playoff stage, the main event stage, where for the people that are there in person, it kind of does screw them out a little bit. Not only the teams themselves, but again, the people paying the tickets to watch this in person, they only get to see 6 of the 16 teams. And if it happens like ESL 1 Genting, if it wasn't for one of the more epic grand finals lately with Liquid versus Newbie going 5 games, it would have been a very underwhelming event because both day 1 and day 2 of the main event were very quick 2-0 series back-to-back. So from that perspective, it's unfortunate that they're doing this format again, especially now for a major. But again, they have their reasons. From the online sense, it's not as big of a deal for me. I do like the overall format, but again, for the in-person, I could get how it's disappointing. So just a note on that. As far as how the groups are looking, I glanced over them earlier on. Nothing really stands out to me as far as how it's shaped up right here. I do see Complexity matching up against Mineski in Group A, so I think they've done that before in a recent event, so we'll see how they do here. But the fact that they have to play, the winner of Virtus Pro and Optic, both the NA teams perhaps matching up in the semifinals, but it's stuff like that. Again, it's understandable. There are 3 NA teams, Evil Geniuses being in Group B. Teams to look out for, if I had to predict from the very beginning right here. I'm not even why am I doing that? This event still has 2 weeks to go, so we're not even going to do that, but you do see the groups as far as how they're shaping up. Again, nothing really one-sided for me. I think both groups definitely have their strengths when it comes down to it. Couple of roster announcements. A new Cinderin stack, as it's always called, officially announced. You're looking at the roster of Cinderin in the 5. You have maybe next time in the 4 position. You have Keizu in the 3, Madara in the 2, and Quakefa in the 1. Or maybe it's Madara in the 1, Quakefa in the 2. Whatever. They're going to interchange, of course, when it comes to the core players, I'm sure. But another roster that Cinderin's putting together, reminds me of Escape Gaming to an extent, obviously with Quakefa and Keizu both being former players of that. I don't know what to expect with this roster. I have somewhat high hopes for it. European region is a little more open than other regions, kind of, but now you have the new Alliance squad. You have the Final Tribe. I mean, Europe is really starting to gel together when it comes to some strong rosters, even 5 anchors to an extent, that it's not as open as it was at the beginning of the season, absolutely. So I don't know if I necessarily expect this team to join step right in and do very well right off the bat by any means, but they're going to have to play through some open qualifiers. We'll see. I do think it has potential to stay together. Cinderin, of course, a great captain as always and good at doing so. We'll see. We'll see how this roster looks moving forward. Double Dimension officially announcing their full roster. Interesting list of players. We got Dityara. He's going to be playing their carry. Excalibur in the middle. Mag will be going to the off lane. Milan in the support, and J4 as the 5 support. So this is a mix of a couple of teams. Somewhat Planet Dog, aka Hellraisers. You have Excalibur making his way. He's been on several different teams from Alliance to Fnatic. Mag from the CIS region. So it's yet again another team that's taking players from different regions. Double Dimension, they're going to play in CIS as they've been. CIS in itself is also a pretty strong region, pretty solid right now. You have Virtus Pro, you have Empire, you have Vega Squadron, you have Team Spirit. I don't know if I'd expect Double Dimension to break top 4 necessarily, but we'll see. With that roster, the potential is there. Last thing I want to go over here real quickly before we do wrap up for the daily recap today. I want to clarify something. So with the roster locks officially happening. So as of right now, roster locks are closed. If a team still wants to make an addition to their roster, they still can technically, but there will be penalties applied in terms of how many points they can earn now from future events, from the minors and majors. So although you're still allowed to, for whatever reason, again, this is where the penalties start kicking in pretty drastic, and you likely don't want to do it. Now, a good point was brought up from this where once a team, say Secret, if Secret wins one more major, they guarantee themselves an invite spot for TI8 because of how many points they'll have, and so the lowest that they can finish is top 8. And again, you need top 8 at the end of the season to get a direct invite to TI8. Now, what's to stop a team like Team Secret from qualifying, getting those points, winning one more major, qualifying, or a couple of minors, whatever it is, and then they were to make a roster change because, whatever, the chemistry a couple of months down the line, mid-1 calls Puppy an ass, and Puppy's like, screw you, throws a monitor at him, and they get in a big fight, so they have to kick mid-1. Yeah, again, obviously we're just having fun here. But the point is, if that was to happen, and they would just bring in a new player, and they would still get their invite spot, right? You would, at least that's what people were kind of speculating. What if that happens? Wickram did confirm that, according to the FAQ, and just to make it pretty clear, invites to the international, both direct and the regional qualifiers, are given to teams based on their registered roster. So teams that want to play with a roster that differs from the registered roster are ineligible for direct or regional qualifier invites to the international. So that pretty much makes a point. If there was any, shady shit to happen later on with some of these top teams already qualifying, or players like we have with the Navi Virtus Pro, say if teams were to qualify and then they decided to swap players, you can't do that. So if you want that direct invite spot to not only the TI itself but even the regional qualifiers, you have to keep the same roster. Ultimately, you can change rosters knowing that you just won't get the direct invite, and again, points at that point, you will also be nerfed in points. But I guess now that I think about it, so if you were to use a stand-in player for whatever reason, or a new player, and take penalty points, at that point you can't even get an invite to TI8 itself or the regional qualifiers, so points don't even matter then. So I guess that's even kind of now more confusing, unless I'm missing. I don't know. It still is a little bit confusing now that I think about it, but the idea is that you have to have the same roster now if you want to actually go to TI. Or you know what it probably comes down to is that so what it is, the team that you're registered with now, if you were to swap out a player later on after you qualified, you could still do that and just take less points, but if you happen to qualify, then you would have to go with the original roster that you signed up with by, as of yesterday or whatever it was. If that makes any sense. Hopefully it does a little bit. Anyways, guys, that's going to wrap it up for the daily recap for today. Obviously, again, a lot of Dota coming up. Again, I do apologize for missing yesterday's daily recap. Like I said, I was traveling all day, so I wasn't able to get around to doing it. But that's why today's was also a little bit longer. Hopefully you enjoyed it as always. Follow me on social media, Twitter, Facebook, and everything else. Hit that subscribe button, and I look forward already to seeing you guys tomorrow to talk more Dota 2, seeing some updates, especially on the Dota 2 Asian Championship. See you guys next time. All right, live stream, staying here, not going anywhere. What is up?